Bright Duty. Every student matters.
Now we will have to study about that, the caste social differences within and beyond the framework of the caste. This caste refers to a set of hierarchical ordered social categories laid down in Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastras. Brahmins, they claim that they were placed themselves on the top and Sudras at the bottom. This way, this categorization is done by the Brahmins. They have just maintained this as a social order in the society. The Brahmins claim that this order was divinely ordered. Means not prepared by them, not enforced by them, but it is the divine order. Caste refers to a set of hierarchical order, social categories laid down in Dharma Shastras and Sutras. Brahmins claim that they were placed themselves on the top and Sudras at the bottom. The Brahmins claim that this order was divinely. The Dharma Sutras and Shastras describe the rules about the ideal occupations of the four categories or varnas. They were supposed to study and teach the Vedas. This is the duty which is performed by Brahmins. They perform sacrifices and get sacrifices performed, give the gifts and receive the gifts. So this is the place fixed by Brahmins for themselves. They perform Vedas, teach the Vedas, perform sacrifices, get sacrifices performed. They give the gifts and also receive the gifts. Kshatriyas were to engage in warfare, protect people and administer justice, study the Vedas. They were also having the right to study Vedas, get sacrifices performed and make gifts. There, for them, the sacrifices were performed by Brahmins. They are not supposed to perform, but they get performed. Then third category, it comes about that Vaishyas. This is the second Kshatriyas, third is Vaishyas. They were expected to give gifts, get sacrifices performed, and study Vedas in addition to engaging agriculture, pastoralism, and trade. Other than this, these are the entire work done by Vaishyas. So, according to the social order, according to the Dharma Shastras, this is the first three order of our society. Then it is given about that the Brahmins, they asserted that the Varna order was divine. They advised the kings to see that this system was followed in their kingdom. They also give their advice to the kings. They attempted to persuade people that their status was determined by birth, as this was not always an easy task. So they reinforced the Varna system by stories told in the Mahabharata and the other religious books. For instance, the story of Eklavya. If suppose any of the category or any of the social order, if they try to deny, not to follow. So in that context, what the Brahmins they were doing, they are quoting the story of Mahabharata about Eklavya, a forest dweller. His sacrifice of his right thumb at the command of his Brahman Guru Dronacharya to benefit the Pandava prince Arjuna shows how the people of lower Varna were exploited. So this is the example quoted over here about that the exploitation of the sutras. Then strategies which developed by the Brahmins to enforce the Varna system. The Brahmins developed three strategies to enforce the Varna system. This is, firstly, the Brahmins asserted that the Varna order was of divine origin. Just now in the previous slide also we discussed. Secondly, the Brahmins advised the kings to ensure that the Varna system is followed within their kingdoms. And thirdly, attempted to persuade the people that their status was determined by birth. According to the Shastras, only Kshatriyas were supposed to be the king. But it is observed that any person who is able to muster support and resources and need not to depend on the theory of birth. The example is also there. The opinions regarding this origin of the Mauryas, the Mauryan dynasty. Chandragupta Maurya did not belong from any of the Kshatriya clan. Later, the Buddhist text suggests that they were Kshatriyas. One of the Buddhist texts it claims that they were from the Kshatriya clan. But while the Brahmanical text describes them as the ruler of the low origin. So there is a controversy regarding that if we talk about or discuss about that the social origin and the social order. The immediate successor of Mauryas were Sungas and the Kanvas who were Brahmins. After this, the decline of the Mauryan dynasty, Sunga dynasty and the Kanva dynasty, they were established, and both of these dynasties, they were from the Brahmanical order. The Satvahana king Gautami Putra Siri Satkarni claimed to be Brahman and destroyer of Krist, that is the Kshatriya's pride. This Satvahana rulers also claimed to have ensured that there was no intermarriage amongst members of the four Varnas, but he himself entered into the marriage alliance with the kin of Rudra Daman, one of the Saka rulers. From this example, we can assume that integration within the framework caste was often a complicated process. So this way, the creation of the caste work, the framework which has been created by the Brahmins in the Dharma Shastras is a very complicated process. The Satvahanas claim to be Brahmins, whereas according to the Brahmins, kings ought to have been Kshatriyas. Now this is the fact came out. The Brahmins, according to the Dharma Shastras, the rulers, they are from the Kshatriyas order. But this Satvahana rulers, they claim that they are from the Brahmanas group. They claim to uphold the fourfold Varna order, but entered into the marriage alliance with people of other castes as well. Besides this, Brahmanical text prescribed exogamy, but the Satvahanas practiced endogamy. So this way, the exceptional cases are also available. Some of the local texts are also available, which gives and throws the idea through the light upon that how the Dharma Shastras and Sutras were practiced, how it has not been practiced, what is the common practice of the people. Everything is collected by the historians to give us idea about that, the social history of our country. It was not very recent. Then a new concept of the Malechhas. Shakas and the Kushana rulers who came from Central Asia, they were not the origin of the Indian land. They were not the natives of the India. They came from the Central Asia, were regarded as barbarians or outsiders, also known as Malechhas. Some powerful Malechhas were familiar with the Sanskrit traditions. As they did not fit in the social order, so the Brahmins, they have given a special name and a category for them, which is known as Malechhas. So this is also explained about that. In that, not only this for the Sakas and the Kushanas, after this, the non-Kshatriyas, who they became the king. Like the southern India, in the Deccan India, we have just now discussed about that. Satvahana rulers. Now coming to discuss about the jatis and the social mobility. According to the Brahmanical theory, jati like varna. This is varna. After this, the varna order, the jati. Jati is also just like as the varna system. So how this concept has developed was based on the birth. While the number of the varna was fixed at 4, there was no restrictions on the number of the jatis. Varna is having the restriction. Only that the four should be there. Only the four. But Jati, they are not having any fixed number. No fixed number. So what it says about that? Who they comes under this? The Jati. The Jatis assigned their names of the professions, like goldsmith. Then the people are who they lived in the forest. They are named as Nishad. Just now we have discussed the story of Eklavya. Eklavya was from the Nishad Jati. And the Jatis which shared names of guilds of Jatis, such as the Mandas. Guilds means that the merchant guilds, the group of the merchants. And they considered themselves as Mandas. Another inscription mentions a guild of silk weaver who lived in Lata in Gujarat, that is Lata. The Jatis sometimes migrated along with the children and kinfolk to places where they could find better working conditions. So they have moved from one place to another in search of that the favorable position, favorable condition. The inscription provide us an insight into the nature of the guilds or the srenis. Guilds were also known as srenis. This is the word for the guilds. The another word which is used is srenis. Generally, membership of a guild was based on a shared craft specialization. The same craft specialization people are from the same group, same guild. They shared within a common profession. They collectively decided to invest their wealth earned through their craft, and they donated their money, the profit which they earned from their craft work. Those money were just donated by them for the construction of temples in the honor of the sun god. The profit is been donated by these srenis, this group of the merchants, for the construction of the temples. And the temple was basically of the sun god. Now, Jati's information from Mandsaur inscription. The social categories are referred to as Jati. Like Varna, Jati was also based on birth. Varnas were fixed in 4, but there were no restriction on number of Jatis. In fact, whenever Brahmanical authorities encountered new groups that did not fit into the fourfold of the Varna system, they classified them Jatis. For instance, people living in forests such as Nishadas. Example is Eklavya, a story given in Mahabharata, which was classified as a Jati. Jatis which shared a common occupation or profession were sometimes organized into srenis or guilds. The stone inscription found in Mandsaur, present day Madhya Pradesh. In those days it was known as Mandsaur, now that is Madhya Pradesh. They provides the information about this social process and the nature of guilds. Nature of guilds means that these guilds they could organize themselves on the basis of their profession. Suppose that the silk weavers or the silk traders, the cotton traders. So that way they are organizing themselves. It records the history of a guild of silk weavers who originally lived in Latin. The means the old name of Gujarat, and they have shifted to Mandsaur along with their kinfolk and children. The membership of the guild was based on shared craft specialization. Some members adopted different occupations as well. The inscription informs us that apart from the common profession shared by the members, they also collectively decided to invest their wealth earned through the craft and constructed a splendid temple in honor of the sun god. Beyond the 4 Varnas, there were populations whose social practices were not influenced Brahmanical ideas, such as Nishadas, nomadic pastoralists, etc. So there was a sharing of ideas and the beliefs between these people. Untouchables and duties prescribed for them in Manu Smriti and Shastras. According to the Dharma Shastras, which they are also called as the subordination of the untouchables and the conflict. The Brahmins considered some social categories as untouchable. They were primarily connected with the performance of rituals which they considered as pure. This is the concept which is developed by Brahmins. So they avoided taking food from untouchables. Not only that, they are giving that the highest position in the social order, but now they are just separating themselves from the common people as they are performing some of the rituals. So they are the pure in the society. So they have started maintaining distance with the untouchables. Some activities which is regarded by these Brahmins as polluting. So this way this system has been started. First, the term is used untouchable. Then Brahmins they segregated themselves from the mainstream of the society as the performer of the ritual, so they are considered as pure. And these Shudras and the untouchables, they have been considered as a polluting agent in the society. So these included handling corpses, the dead bodies. What is the work and the duties performed by these untouchables? Dead of animals who performed such tasks were known as chandalas. So this way now the categorization is done in the society. The new names, first the nishads, then untouchables. Now they are who they are supposed to do the menial jobs to provide the services to the three higher classes, and the concept of the chandalas is also developed now. This is now about that how the concept of the chandalas emerged in this according to the sutras and the shastras. Brahmins believe that the certain activities, especially those concerned with the performance of the rituals and the sacred, they consider themselves as pure and they considered some activities as polluting, which included handling that the corpses and the dead animals. Those who performed such tasks were designated as chandalas, and the chandalas were placed at the lowest level of hierarchy. Those who claimed to be the highest in the social order even avoided seeing them. Why they are calling it that the polluting? Because this the higher social order people, they do not want to give a look also upon them. The Manu Smriti states that the duties of the chandalas, they had to live outside the village, and bottom of the social hierarchy, touching and seeing them was regarded as the polluting by the Brahmins. The Manu Smriti laid down the duties of the chandalas. They had to live outside the village. This was mandatory for them and followed by the higher class people very strictly. They used discarded utensils, wear clothes of the dead, and ornaments of iron. They could not walk and out of the villages and the cities at night. They are not supposed to walk and to move. No movement is allowed after the sun sets. They had to dispose of the bodies of those who had no relatives and serve as executioners. So this is the norms, and according to this, the Brahmanical norms, these were the caste categories which were followed in our society. The Brahmanical texts depict the lives of chandalas as given above, but there are occasional hints of different social realities. Some exceptional cases are also there. The Matanga Jataka, a Pali text which was actually written during the period of Buddhism, that mentions that the Bodhisattva, This is the Buddha in a previous birth. Fact is not available, but the text gives the idea. It is written in the Buddhist text. So this is Bodhisattva, the previous birth of Lord Buddha, was a Chandala. He was named Matanga. After suffering much hardships, he succeeded in marrying Dhitta Mangalika, the daughter of a merchant. They had a son named Mandavya Kumara. He learned the three Vedas as he grew up and began to provide food to 16,000 Brahmins every day. So, this is also one of the exceptional cases quoted in the old text or the inscriptions somewhere in the Pali language in Buddhist text. So, this is also the one of the exceptional case how this Chandala was married to a merchant's daughter, and after marrying this merchant's daughter he was able to learn the Vedas. Then it is about that the two of this the observations done by the foreign travelers who they visited India in 5th century CE and wrote what the untouchables sounded. Just now this we have discussed about that they are not supposed to come out even when the sun sets. So in the dark, in the night, they are not supposed to come out. And what they observe, this Faxian and the Xuanzang, what they have observed while they were visiting India to do the research on the Buddhism and to learn about that, the Buddhist text. So during their period visit in India, what they have observed from the Indian society was that they were very surprised about this the social order. Faxian came to India in 5th century CE, wrote that the untouchables sounded clappers when they entered a street so that the people could avoid the sight. First of that, it was declared by the Brahmins according to the norms. Even though they are seeing this, to look upon them also was a type of the pollution. So Xuanzang, who came in the 7th century CE, observed that the executioners and scavengers were forced to live outside the city. There were instances of Chandalas who were not accepting the life of degradation prescribed in the Shastras. Many of the Chandalas, they did not accept the norms which is prescribed, which is given in that the Dharma Shastras. Beyond the birth, resources and the status, the social position of different sections were often shaped by their access to economic resources. Now the social position, it comes about that how it is correlated with that the economic resources. The criteria on which property is granted is as follows: on the basis of gender, on the basis of the Varna system. Gender access to property, the access to resources sharpened the social differences between men and women. According to Manusmriti, the women were not eligible to claim a share in the paternal property. Only that the exceptional case about the Prabhavati Gupta we have just discussed now. The parental property was divided among sons after the death of parents with a special share for the eldest one. However, the women could retain the gift they received on the occasion of their marriage as Stridhan. This is the concept in those days also. Whatever these women they are getting at the time of their marriage is considered as a Stridhan. The Stridhan is inherited by her children without the husband having any claim on it. Husband cannot claim in this the Stridhan, which the woman is getting at the time of the marriage. According to Manusmriti, women were not supposed to hoard family property and their own valuables without their husband's permission. This way, the women were considered as minor. Before the marriage, under the guardianship of fathers, and after that, the husbands. Both epigraphic and textual evidences suggest that while upper class women may have had access to resources, now the class distinction is also there. Upper class women, they have the access. The women have the access. Like the land can also be controlled by them. Then cattle, money was generally controlled by men.